Hi, I'm Lee and welcome to another weekly tip video. So today we're going to take a look at how you can use ChatGPT to create playlists within your Apple Music library. Now, whilst the search within Apple Music is fine, alongside some of the pre-curated lists, using an AI tool to create playlists gives you much more flexibility. Now, it's not without its restrictions, some of which we're going to cover, but it's definitely worth taking a look at if you want to create some detailed playlists and discover new music. Okay, what we're going to look at today can be done on macOS, iOS, and here on iPad too in exactly the same way. So I'll do today's show on the iPad because it gives a nice amount of space to see how this works. So ChatGPT can connect to a number of applications. It's January 2026 as I record this, and here in apps, you'll see that we've got three sections there. We've got featured, lifestyle, and productivity. And then over here, I've already connected the Apple Music app. So connecting an app is very simple. Here it says connected, but when you come in here for the first time, this button here will actually say connect instead. And all you do is tap it, authenticate, and then ChatGPT will connect to your Apple Music account. Now, it is important to note that the user's history and playlists are going to remain private. ChatGPT can add to a user's Apple Music library, but it doesn't have full read access. And we're going to see that more as we look at some of the restrictions to what you can do with ChatGPT. But here are some examples of prompts that you can use. So you can use ChatGPT to ask Apple Music to create a playlist of today's latest hits, perhaps show some new music with cool, chill vibes, or find music to get you into that holiday spirit. It really is all about discovery. And if I come back, you'll see down here that I've also connected the Spotify app. So if you're a Spotify user rather than an Apple Music one, this video is still going to help because you can carry out the examples that I'm going to show in Spotify as well. And in fact, you can do more in Spotify, which we're going to touch on. So just while we're here, we haven't looked at ChatGPT in a while, and I will be doing an update video soon. But here in Lifestyle, you can see these applications that can now be connected. And then also, if I come to productivity, you'll see as I come down here, there's a lot of apps that can now be connected to ChatGPT. It's definitely growing. There's lots of integrations there for you to play with for sure. Now I'm going to come over here though, and I'm going to start a new thread. Now to get ChatGPT to ask Apple Music to do something, I need to specifically call it out. So I'm going to type down here at Apple Music. And I can press enter to auto-complete that when there's only one option available. And this is now going to talk to the Apple Music application. So let's put in our first prompt, a simple one to start with. I want to create a melancholic rainy day playlist of 15 songs. Now it's not super quick, but it's not too slow either. It needs to establish a connection and then Apple Music goes away and it executes the search that ChatGPT has requested. And I can see a widget appearing there, and that's done. Didn't take too long at all. Now this widget here is important to note. This is only ever going to show 5 items at the moment, and that can be a little bit restrictive. It's the same for Spotify as well, but it has presented a result to me. We've got 5 individual tracks in the widget, and I can hover over the cover of those, and if I was to click, it would play a preview of the track. Then over here, ChatGPT can't read my library, but Apple Music does indicate whether this track is in my library or not. And you can see 3 of these are, and if I was to click the plus here, this will add this track into my library. And that's Pink Moon by Nick Drake. So if I switch across to Apple Music here, indeed, I can see it there. Okay, back to our results. And I've got one more that I can add directly. And that's the limitation of just showing 5 results. It means that whilst there's another 10 tracks that have been found, I can't interact directly with them here to add them. Now, as I come down, we can see the full track list for the playlist there. And in true ChatGPT style, we've got some recommendations on how we can build on this result to perhaps fine tune it if we wish. And I'll do that. Let's make it 25 songs. Okay, again, that wasn't too long, about 10 seconds or so there. But now we do indeed have a 25 song playlist. And if I come back up to my widget here, I can click create playlist in Apple Music. And after a short period of time, the playlist is added. So let's switch across, check it is indeed there. And I just need to come down to playlists here. And down here, I can see our new playlist. It's added and it's called Rain on the Window Pane, created by Lee Garrett, but we know it was really created by ChatGPT. Let's run through some more potential prompts that could be used or may give you some inspiration. So here, I've got a prompt that says, find 5 artists similar to Radiohead. And what I've also done, you'll see over here on the left, is I've just renamed this thread. So it's clear this is using Apple Music, because later on in the video, I'm going to have another thread running, I'm sure, that's going to be talking to Spotify. Okay, there is no guarantee, of course, that this is going to do what I want. So let's see. It's running. And I can see it's given me 5 artists in the widget there. So that's good. That's what I asked for. And that's why I asked for 5 specifically and not any more, so that they can all appear in here for me to favorite and add to Apple Music if I like. Then down here, hang on, that's not quite right. Oh, okay, I can see what it's done. So we've all used AI enough to know that it does what it likes from time to time. So yes, it's given me 5 artists in that widget. However, the text description down here is a little bit different. So the Smile and Atoms for Peace, they do appear in the widget, but Sigur Rós and Massive Attack and Portishead, well, they don't. So I've actually got 8 results here. Never mind, don't mind that too much. I'm going to favourite both of these here. And then if I wanted to add Sigur Rós here, which I do, I could just highlight the text, copy it with a long press or by pressing Command and C on my keyboard. And then I can add them by just going to search over here and pasting in the text. Then all I'd have to do, of course, is select the artist and add them. I do think it's important when I do these videos to keep in a few bits that I may have otherwise edited out, just so you can see that not everything runs as it should all the time, especially with AI tools like this. It can be hit and miss. So what's going to happen here? I want to find lesser known artists that are similar to Oasis and add their top tracks to my library. Now, being a little bit naughty there, because I know it's not going to add the tracks into my library without me physically doing it. But it should be able to do the first part of that prompt. And it has. I can see we've got some smaller bands that I recognize there. And as I come down, we've got expansions to this prompt that I can use if I wish. Okay, let's do a few more prompt types here. So I'm asking for a chilled evening playlist with down-tempo electronic and ambient tracks. And we can see the track list again. This one can be nice with a glass of wine reflecting on the day. And of course, you can ask follow-ups to target the selection a little bit more. Or perhaps you want a playlist that lasts for a certain duration. Well, here I've asked for a 2-hour playlist for a long car journey with some upbeat rock and pop. Great for when driving with the family on a day trip. Well, here we have 2 hours worth of great tunes. The playlist name is going to be Road Trip Boost, and I can add it. I can make it longer and more. Now here we have an example of a prompt that I do quite like using. This is asking for a playlist that tells the story of British rock from the 1960s to today. So if you have a genre of music you particularly like, why not create a playlist that charts its history? You can see it's split here in the description, telling you what the different decades represent. And you may not agree with all the tracks, but you can always add the playlist and then just remove some in the Apple Music app itself. We've got a similar prompt here, this time asking for a playlist that charts the evolution of electronic music. We can see once more the decades again here, and this is definitely a playlist I think that's going to resonate with me, so I'll be adding this one as well. Okay, I'm going to close by taking a look at a couple of limitations you may experience with the Apple Music integration. So I've got a new thread going here, and I'm using Spotify in this one. I'm asking Spotify to find the first 5 studio albums that the band Blur released that are missing from my library. I want to have them added. Now, ChatGPT and Apple Music won't do this because ChatGPT does not have read access to my library. Okay, it's run. And as I come up, it's telling me that the Leisure album and the Parklife album are already in my library. So it lists the 3 missing ones there. Now, when I tested this just half an hour ago, ChatGPT and Spotify added the albums automatically for me. And of course, now that I'm recording, it hasn't. But I'm sure if I try it in an hour's time or try this on a different device, it will add them. The fun of AI, right? However, this does still get us a lot further than Apple Music will. Now, if I switch to that thread, I'm going to run a different prompt here, but with Apple Music. So create a 3-hour playlist from my library featuring tracks that are mellow and with a BPM under 100. So the key bit there is from my library, because this requires ChatGPT to read it, which is not allowed. So this should run, but not fully execute what I want. And sure enough, it says at the top, I've started building, but with one important caveat. And it says it in bold there, I can't directly scan your Apple Music library or filter by exact BPM values. So it's created a playlist for me, but not necessarily from my library. And that wasn't the ask. Okay, in the Spotify thread now, let's ask Spotify to do the same. And there's the result. We've got a playlist called Mellow Vibes. It contains tracks from my library and it's got the correct BPM value there. I can add another prompt if I wish, and it will still be searching my library for the result. Going to leave that to run. And it's done. We've got a 3-hour playlist based on tracks from my library ready to add. So if I click on open in Spotify, there is the playlist created nicely. So an example there of the difference here between the two services. Apple Music integration is great for discovering new music and creating new playlists based on the Apple Music service as a whole, whereas Spotify can dig into your library and listening history to offer you more flexible options for your prompts. So as you saw there, ChatGPT and Apple Music can play together nicely when it comes to creating new playlists. It's effective and provides great results. But it's definitely a little bit restrictive at this point in time, and I'm not too sure whether those shackles are ever going to be released at all. However, as we've seen, Spotify is a viable option if you want to use an AI tool to read and manipulate your library. And I can see that functionality improving more in the future. So thanks for watching, and we're going to be back on Friday with a full video. So we'll see you then.